joined by the Minister of State at the Ministry of Justice, Victoria Atkins. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. Quick thought on the GDP figures before we go any further. 0.8%, slowing growth from 1.3% in the previous quarter.
We had the fastest growth in the G7 last year. We've got this slowing now, but we're back on track. 24-25 will be right back up to the fastest rate of growth, and that was very much the point of the Queen's speech, was to say, look, we've got to really help our economy grow over the coming years, and the Queen's speech is going to set the legislative framework to enable that to happen.
OK, to that end, one of your MPs, Lee Anderson, making headlines this morning. Here's what he said in the Commons yesterday.
There's not this massive use for food banks in this country. We've got generation after generation who cannot cook properly, they can't cook a meal from scratch, they cannot budget. The challenge is there.
Do you agree with him?
I think when I was watching Lee in the chamber, I think he was talking about his own local food bank and how the food bank was trying to offer not just immediate help with provision of food, but also longer-term help, for example, help with budgeting and so on. And I've got community groups in my constituency, the Orford Hub, that really tries to wrap their arms around people and look after them and help to address the various aspects that may be causing difficulties. So, look, I absolutely believe that if volunteers, people working on the ground, can find ways of offering longer-term support as well as the immediate help of a food bank, then of course they should do that.
This is the front page of the Mirror this morning. I mean, this is how it will be interpreted throughout the country. Do you agree with him? Tories, the poor can't cook.
I absolutely.
Well, that's how it's coming across.
I know, and as I say, having watched the debate, I'm not sure that was actually what Lee was saying. When we look at the work of the government, we have tried not just to give immediate help with issues such as energy costs. We know that energy costs are really fueling great worries, great problems for people, as indeed they are around the world, but also trying to offer longer-term solutions. So, for example, you'll remember the debate over free school meals during the holidays, and we are spending something like £200 million on holiday activity programmes in schools.
No, Minister, this is the point where you say, you don't agree with him. That was a ridiculous, crass thing for him to say, and he needs to apologise.
Yeah, in fairness, I have said I don't agree with him.
And he needs to apologise.
I mean, Lee is very articulate. He will, I'm sure, make himself clear. I think he's doing a bit of media today. But this is not the view of me or anyone else in government. We want to give not just immediate help, but longer-term support as well. I really appreciate the efforts of food banks and voluntary groups around the country who work day in, day out to help people when they are in great distress.
Do you condemn what he said?
I do. I mean, look, I do not agree with it. I do. That headline, as I said, I'm not sure that headline really reflects what Lee said.
Let's listen again to what he said.
Let's listen again to what he said. The whole debate.
Let's listen again to what he said.
There's not this massive use for food banks in this country. We've got generation after generation who cannot cook properly, they can't cook a meal from scratch, they cannot budget. The challenge is there.
So, as I say, I watched the full debate, the full section of the debate, and he was talking about his local food bank. Clearly, I do not agree with that headline on the Mirror. Clearly, the need for food banks, if people need that help, they must please seek it. And I think, there isn't...
He was basically saying people want to go to a food bank to get a ready meal because they can't be bothered cooking.
Yeah, no, that's not right. That is absolutely not right. We know that's not right. I've spent my ministerial career working with very vulnerable people. I do, the complexities as to how people end up in situations that they feel very, very distressed about. As a constituency MP, I see it, and cooking lessons will not be the complete solution to that.
Of course not. 250,000 homes are going to fall into destitution next year. And you have an MP, a Tory MP, saying something like that. Hardly surprising that people think that this government's out of touch.
Well, that's not, in fairness, that does not reflect the work of the government. I mean, if you look at the very immediate work that we have done already this month or last month to help with the cost of living crisis, including the council tax rebate that happened last month. We have raised the national living wage to help the poorest and the lowest paid of people. And in July, we will be raising the national insurance threshold, which means that people keep more of their hard-earned cash. So these are all measures that we're bringing in. We've doubled the household support fund. This is a fund that local councils administer to help the most vulnerable and the neediest in their local communities. We've said that a third of that must be helping pensioners, because we are very, very aware of the distress that people are in at the moment, and we want to help them.
And yet 250,000 people, homes, not just people, homes are going to fall into destitution. What a word that is. What we could do is have a windfall tax, which would raise about £2 billion.
Well, we also, I think, need to help people understand when there is help available. So we know there are something like 850,000 households that aren't claiming pension credits to which they are entitled. So getting the message out to people to seek help where they can. There's a really good website called moneyhelper.org.uk where people can get free advice, trusted advice as to what's available for them.
People can't afford electricity to power up their computers.
But there are helplines out there if they're able to. And so, you know, there is a programme, as I say, of work across government to help people who are in distress.
Windfall tax. Where are we with the windfall tax?
We're having to find both immediate and longer-term measures on this.
OK, windfall tax.
On the windfall tax, I mean, the Chancellor has said we will look at measures throughout this process, and I think as a government we have shown during the pandemic that we will absolutely change and work on policies that as issues arise. I'm not involved in those discussions that may be happening in Treasury, but what we've tried to set out in the Queen's speech is a framework for really growing our economy over the coming years.
So you're not ruling it out?
Well, as I'm not involved in those conversations, but the Chancellor, in fairness, has said that he will continue to review this, and he's also challenged energy companies that if they're, you know, they need to show very clearly their investment plans over the coming years for this country, because of course it's not.
We're going off the tangent there. We're going off the tangent, and we only have a limited amount of time, Minister, as you know.
It's not just about the next months; it's about the coming years.
Something that you will have a view on, given that you are, I think I'm right in saying, a former lawyer.
Barrister, yeah.
Barrister, forgive me. As far as the Northern Ireland Protocol is concerned, we're hearing that the Attorney General is going to be able to prove that it won't be illegal to scrap the Northern Ireland Protocol. If that is the case, is that something that you would support?
Well, I haven't seen the advice, and of course the attorney will be seeking legal advice on matters of such significance as this. I think, as with the rest of government, my primary concern are the people of Northern Ireland. They're part of our country, they're our friends, our neighbours, our relatives, and we know that the protocol at the moment is not only creating political instability, because we need to get the executive up and running, that is proving very, very difficult, but it is also providing problems for people in their day-to-day lives, so rising prices, shortage of goods and so on. I'm convinced that we will be able to find a solution to this, because I'm sure that the EU will listen to our arguments, but I think it's right that we say, look, we have got to review this to see how it's working.
But it wasn't something that was foisted on us. It was this Prime Minister's idea.
Yeah, and we entered those negotiations in good faith, but after now several months, many months, it is having this impact in Northern Ireland, and we know how. So
it was a bad deal when he did it, even though he told us it was a good deal.
It was absolutely negotiated in good faith, but we have to be realistic about the political situation in Northern Ireland. We want to get that executive up and running, and we need to ensure that the Good Friday Agreement is absolutely protected, because that piece is so very precious.
So it's not Westminster that's at fault, it's the Northern Ireland politicians that's at fault?
I'm not saying anyone's at fault at the moment. I'm saying exactly as I've said, Kay, that there is a difficult political situation in Northern Ireland. We want to resolve that.
There always has been.
Well, we have an executive that, you know, we are unable at the moment. There's
not for the first time.
No, and so we need to ensure that we can try and help local politicians set that executive up so that Northern Ireland can continue to.
We were told it was an oven-ready deal. We were told it was an oven-ready deal.
Northern Ireland's health. Yeah, absolutely. And look, we entered that negotiation in good faith, and I'm sure.
And you did a deal in good faith. That's what the EU would say.
I'm an optimist, and I'm sure that we will be able to come to common ground and find a solution with the European Union. So
you don't feel it was international? It was an international treaty, but not legally binding. Is that what we're saying?
Well, we are in the middle of it at the moment. So
Is it legally binding or not?
Article 16 is in the agreement for a reason, that if there are problems, then the parties can look at how to try to address those problems. We've been working on this. I mean, we set out the command paper, I think, last summer, setting out our concerns about this. Unfortunately, some of the things that the EU has suggested, we think, don't help the situation. We think they take us backwards. So, for example, to send a birthday present to Northern Ireland under these plans, apparently one would have to complete 50 fields of a customs declaration. You know, they're part of the United Kingdom. We just want to try to find a solution.
One wonders why he didn't think about that beforehand. Before I let you go, we're almost out of time, but I want you to talk to me about your brief, if you would, quickly, in the cross-examination of video recording.
Yeah, so we have been working now for a year on trying to improve not just the convictions of rapists, people accused of rape, but also, importantly, the treatment of victims within the criminal justice system. So we're taking a forensic look at every single stage, and one of the measures that we're announcing today is that we are rolling out even further pre-recorded evidence for victims of rape and sexual assault, so that they can give evidence on a video recording much sooner after the attack, and that recording is then played in due course at the jury trial. And we're trying to do this because we know one of the reasons that we are seeing the rates of conviction being so low is that victims get to the stage where they simply can't support the prosecution anymore. We do not want that to happen. We want to support them, and so this is one of the measures that we're trying to see if that will have an improvement in the system.
OK, we are out of time. It just pops into my head, slightly out of left field, but Levi Bellfield, I don't know if you've seen. Should he be allowed to get married?
Absolutely appalling. I've ordered an immediate review into this when it came to light last night. Just to reassure people, I understand an application has been made. That has not been decided yet, and he most certainly has not yet married. But if I may, he's got the right under Article 12 of the European Convention and the Human Rights Act to get married. Also, they have the right to have the application considered by prison governors. And I think I'm very much welcome the debate we're about to have about the Bill of Rights and looking at human rights in the United Kingdom in the 21st century. And believe you me, I'll be raising this.